Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Tuesday Tips. Hi, I'm Pam Dunwald with Your Nurse Advocate Consulting. And if you're joining us live, put in the chat where you watching from. And if you're in the thick of holiday family time right now, you're not alone. And this episode is going to be another thing geared towards family holidays. It's often a time when family members get together that don't see each other too often. And this time of year can be really beautiful, and it can also be the moment when sibling tension around an aging parent finally boils over, and we're hoping that doesn't happen for you. Nobody wants those kind of things to go on during the holidays when the families visit. So we're going to hopefully give you some tips and strategies how to manage those siblings conversations, if how to avoid kind of an argument and just keep that happy spirit going, so to speak, for the holidays. So hopefully we'll give you some tips and strategies to be able to gear the conversation in a positive manner. So, this is what we hear all the time. Linda and I, we hear this frequently when we talk to people, and we have a siblings course, and it's our signature course. It won't be launching yet for a while in 2026. We've just updated in that, but we interviewed a lot of siblings and a lot of families, and this is what we hear. We hear this all the time. My sister thinks I'm overreacting. My brother hasn't helped all year, but now he's got an opinion. We can't even talk about mom without it turning into a fight. My sister lives far away and she can't help, and I'm stuck here and I'm the one doing all the work. So this is often, types of things that we hear. So don't get me wrong. We've really worked with many families that work together like a well-oiled machine, but even the best of families can struggle, especially when their beliefs don't align with their aging loved ones. And what I mean by that is, if you're in a conversation and your aging loved one says, well, I want to be a DNR, I want to be a do not resuscitate. And maybe you're of the mindset that, well, you think that there's still many years left, you think, you hope. And I would think that mom or dad, you would want to have everything done for you. And so those are usually the kind of things that start these type of discussions, is when our own personal values and our own personal choices maybe don't align or don't match up with what our aging parents want. And we've got to remember too that everybody is an individual, and as long as they are of good, sound mind, and they're cognitively intact and they can make their own decisions, that's what they are. They're their decisions. So, in the holidays, that can make it worse because you're all in the same room. You're seeing changes to your parents in real time. Many families, they get together once or twice a year, and you may not have seen your aging loved ones in a few months. And now all of a sudden you see some changes and you're thinking, well, why didn't someone tell me this was this bad? And then someone says, well, I tried to tell you this was bad, but you said they were fine when you were here the last time and you didn't want to hear it. So if any of that sounds familiar, we hear those things all the time. So, everyone has different memories, expectations, and stress levels. So today we're going to give you a simple way to have these conversations with less conflict and try to move towards forward progress, so to speak. Most siblings, most of the conflict isn't actually about the decision, like, going to assisted living, or you're not supposed to, we don't want you to drive anymore, or disagreements over medication management or medications. They're on too many medications. They're not on enough medications. They're, everything in between. And it's usually about, a few things. Number one, it's usually about fear. You're afraid of what's coming, or you feel guilty. I am one of those long distance siblings. I'm one of the oldest of 5. And so I have this horrible thing of wanting to make sure that my family's taken care of, because I'm the oldest, and that's what I did. I took care of all my brothers and sisters. And so my 4 siblings are taking care of my mom, and I'm long distance. I try and do as much as I can, but that doesn't, help, sometimes stop the guilt that I feel for not being able to do more. There's grief. Again, thinking about what's ahead, it may make you sad, and some people react very differently. They lash out, with either grief or fear. And then there's control. Some of us, again, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. Again, I'm the oldest, so I sometimes, feel that I want to direct things, and my family calls me, the event planner, and I like, if we go someplace, I want to always schedule the events. I need things in order, and as the oldest, that's what comes sometimes with being the oldest. And then the last thing is just feeling left out or unappreciated. And here's where you need to be careful. And I'll give you a tip here. If you have a long distance family member that doesn't get to give hands-on care like some of the other family members can, it's very important. It's not that they don't want to help. They need to have things that they can do from long distance. I manage my mom's insurance. I order her supplies, for her oxygen. I can get under my chart. I can listen virtually to doctor's appointments. There's things that I can do. We're right now in the process of having her come stay with me for a few months. So we're trying to get all those things in order. So there's things that they could do. They could pay bills. I mean, you could pay bills online. There's scheduled doctor's appointments. There's all kinds of things people can do from long distance. So it's important to give them tasks so that, number one, they feel they're not feeling left out. And also then, if they're offering to take some of those things, then you feel more appreciated because they're trying to help you out and do the best they can, even though they don't, live next door, so to speak. So if you go into the conversation trying to win and prove your point, you're going to lose the relationship. If you're going in there to create a plan, then you've got a shot. And I'm going to say that again, because that's really important. If you go into the conversation trying to win, you're going to lose the relationship. So really think about that. And if you go in trying to create a plan, how everyone fits into that plan, put those pieces to those puzzles together, then you've really got a shot. And so by the end of this live, we're hoping that you're going to have a way to start conversations without triggering defensiveness, a structure to keep it from turning into a debate, and also a next step plan so you can agree on, even if you don't agree on everything, you can agree on the plan. So we're going to start with the tip number 1. And that is, start with what you all want, not what you're all mad about. And this might go something like, I know we see things differently, but I think we can all agree we want mom and dad to be safe. Find common ground. And, but I think we all want, what's best for mom and dad. We want them to be safe. And we want to respect what matters to her, to mom, to them, mom and dad. And so can we talk about what we're noticing and what support she needs right now? So avoid the blame game. It's nobody's fault. You can't stop the aging process. And the older they get, the more challenges are going to come up. So we really have to just look at what we're seeing, look at the changes, look at the hand that we're being dealt, so to speak, and how do we move forward. So you'll notice if you use this approach, and again, I know we see things differently, but I think we all can agree that we want mom and dad to be safe and respect what matters to them. Can we talk about what we're noticing and what support she needs right now? And so that is a great line. So when you use that type of a phrase, and again, it's going to be in your own language, you have a way, your family has a way of talking to each other, but you get the drift. And so when you start the conversation that way, it does a few things. It lowers the temperature, kind of cools people off. Again, finding that common ground where you can all agree, that puts everybody in agreement to start. It reminds everyone that you're all on the same team because you all want the same thing. And it centers on your parent, not the sibling drama. You got to remember, and one of the things that's in our course is we go really at lengths to look at birth order, how your sibling relationships were when you were kids, because those things, how you treated each other as kids and where you were on the birth order, or maybe if you're even an only child, that really matters, the dynamics that go on in caring for your aging parents. So it really does matter. So those things, you just can't dismiss those because you've lived with those for decades. So one of the things you want to try not to say is don't avoid the yous. You never help. You don't understand. Or the I's. I'm the only one doing anything. I'm the only one that gets it. I'm the only one that knows what's best for mom and dad. I see them every day, or I see them every couple of days. That's a recipe for disaster. Even if it's true, and it might be, these are saying these kind of things are guaranteed to start a fight. And that's not what we want over the holidays. So, I had a family where one sibling lived nearby and was just exhausted. The out-of-state sibling really felt shut out, and very common scenario when you have a long distance and one that's doing the hands-on. Once we started with, we both love dad and want him safe, the whole conversation shifted. And it really does. Again, it brings everybody together. Tip number 2, use specific observations instead of labels. So what do we mean by that? Labels sound like mom's getting helpless. Dad's fine. You're just being dramatic. You're controlling. Observations sound more like this. I noticed mom has fallen twice in the last month. Another example, dad missed 2 medications, this week out of his pill box, his planner. Another one might be, I saw the stove left on after dinner when I came by to drop something off. Or she seems more confused in the evenings. These are observations. These aren't opinions. These aren't subjective comments. These are observations. These are things that you're really seeing. And these are things that people can really grasp because it's not opinions. It's facts. It's what you've seen. And when you stick to the facts, it's harder to argue. And it keeps the conversation really grounded in reality. So kind of a mini structure, you can use kind of these words to kind of start this conversation. So number 1, what I'm noticing is blah, blah, blah. What I'm worried about is blah, blah, blah. Or what I think we should do next, and that's one step. What's the first next step we think we should do? Maybe it's something like, what, right after the holidays are over, we know everybody's busy and has a lot of, family. You've got your in-law side of the family. You've got a couple of different sides of family. You may have other, friends that you share the holidays with. And so you might say something like, when the holidays are over with, let's schedule a family Zoom. And let's start the discussion. We have a family agenda that we're happy to share with that kind of leads the meeting and keeps it on track when you're talking about caring for a loved one. But that's, maybe that might be your first next step. So here's another example. What I'm noticing is that, dad's struggling with stairs. What I'm worried about is a fall. The next step, I'd like us to agree that maybe a PT, physical therapy evaluation or a home safety assessment might be appropriate. That would be spot on. That's an observation, and it's a step. We're not here to figure it all out. Let's have an expert come in. All it needs is a doctor's order. I don't know a doctor on the planet that wouldn't, with the risk of an aging loved one falling, that they wouldn't agree to a physical therapy evaluation. So that would be easy to arrange. All right, let's move on to tip number 3. Don't try to solve the entire future in one holiday conversation. Remember, this is about family. This is about joy. This is about enjoying each other. It's about playing games, singing carols, watching football, whatever your family does during the holidays, that's what it should be focused on. It should be focused on building memories, making connections, enjoying each other's company because you haven't seen each other. I look forward to Christmas very much because it's one of the only times a year where we get all the kids in one place at one time. And we have a blended family. So oftentimes we have 2 Christmases, but it's a time to get everybody together. So So the tip number 3, again, don't try to solve the entire future in one holiday conversation. So holiday gatherings are not the time for a 2-hour debate, rehashing 20 years of sibling history, or forcing a decision when emotions are high. Making decisions when emotions are high is the worst possible case scenario. So instead, aim for just agreeing on that first next step. And who owns what? So it might go something like this. You've agreed your first next step is right after the holidays, after the new year, that first week of January, we're going to schedule a family Zoom and we're going to talk. So that might be the first next step. And what you might say then, take it one step further, who owns what? So-and-so is going to set up the Zoom. So-and-so can get on mom or dad's, my chart. We can share it. We can review things. We can look at their meds and just decide who's going to do what to get, ready for that meeting, so that everybody feels that they're playing their part. And here's another next step that usually works is scheduling that Zoom. And like we said, making sure that everybody has their roles. Who's going to do what? We talked about someone gathering the medical information, someone researching local support. Maybe someone needs to find out what physical therapist might be in network with mom or dad's insurance. So maybe someone can do that. Someone can decide that they're going to talk with the primary care provider, send a note on my chart, give them a jingle, leave a message. Hey, we'd like to get a physical therapy referral. And then set a date to revisit those decisions. And so it may take a couple of Zooms or whatever, Skype, FaceTime, Snap, whatever method that your family chooses to communicate with. Stick with one method, and then just make sure that there always is you schedule your next follow-up before you end your call or your Zoom or whatever you are doing to discuss your parents together. If you need structure, again, we've got our family caregiver meeting agenda and guide. I will put that into the chat when we are here live on Facebook. And for those of you that are watching live, thank you. We're super glad that you're here. We really appreciate you. And if you are joining us on a replay on our YouTube channel, we will have this in the description of the video. So everyone will have access to these tools that we're talking about during our Tuesday tips today. And because it's the holidays, we also created a holiday survival guide. Now, it might be kind of late in the year. Holidays right around the corner, but it might not be late for someone, depending on when you celebrate, because caregiving during the holidays is a whole different level of stress. And so we'll also include that in that. And if you're thinking, I need to get through this week without a blow up, I need a plan before everyone goes back home, or I need help having this conversation without turning it into a fight, please reach out to us. We do a lot of family mediation. We do a lot of family, there's something about a third party that can help, kind of tone things down, and everybody's on a little bit better behavior when they know a stranger or a third party is involved. So don't hesitate. If you think you really need some help with this, please reach out to us. This is what we do. Send us a message, reply to the post, or reply on YouTube. We will be happy to send you the holiday survival guide and also the family caregiver meeting agenda and guide, so that you don't feel like you're winging it. So in wrapping up, before we do close, let me ask you, what's the hardest part of sibling conversations for you? Getting everyone to agree, getting someone to participate, or keeping emotions under control? Which one of those is the most challenging for you? Drop it in the comments. And if you want support navigating a specific situation, that's exactly what you do at your Nurse Advocate Consulting, and you don't have to carry this alone. So if you tell me, in wrapping up, I just want to say that, again, happy holidays. We hope that all of you look forward to spending some quality family time, enjoying your aging loved ones. Don't forget those legacy activities as well. Video grandma, grandpa, video mom or dad, ask them questions. learn their story, either record it or, make a video on your phone, do something so that everybody in the family can have it forever and ever. And it's a great time in the holidays to do something special like that. So thank you for joining us for another Tuesday Tips. Next Tuesday, we will not be live. I will have just a special short live. Well, it'll be a live Tuesday Tips, but it's going to be some holiday activities. We won't have a structured Tuesday Tips like we are now. We were going to spin our wheel. I sent out in our newsletter, if you're part of our Senior Saturday newsletter and part of our community, I was giving away an Amazon gift card for some suggestions and things that we could do to help continue to support you in 2026. I put the wrong form in, so we're going to extend that a week. I was going to spin the wheel, so we will let you know in our next newsletter when that will be. So thanks again for joining us for Tuesday Tips, and we'll see you again back here soon. Take care.